Welcome to Brash Ag, the farm innovation podcast with hosts Raymond King and Kit Franklin.
Hi, and welcome to this Chewing the Cud episode of Brash Ag, but unusually, rather than it being both Ray and I interviewing a guest, sadly, due to some technical faults, which the irony is not lost on us on a technical podcast, I am on my own with Ray unable to join the recording today with Bill O'Neill of AgWise over in the US of A. So, Bill, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Kit. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. And there's more to this as well, because this has not only been an issue, we're not only having technical issues today, we did also do this recording in full last week with all three of us. And then we had upload failures and editing suite failures that meant we were having to re-record. So this is sort of Groundhog Day for Bill and I, although it is different because we're not joined by Ray. So, Bill, let's not pretend that we haven't had this conversation before, in a sense, and maybe the fact we've kind of had the conversation before means that we can sort of be more targeted with our discussions, and I can think of what we've said before and put some more targeted things to you. Does that sound all right?
That sounds great. Yeah.
I think starting off, Bill, AgWise is an all-in-one farm management platform, but we won't start there. We'll come on to that later. You're in this sort of ag tech development space now with this sort of software suite that you're developing, but that's not your background. Your background is actually in the meat industry. So tell us tell us a bit about what you did in the meat industry. I think it was really interesting, and then maybe drift that into how you are where you are today, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Kit. And again, thanks for the discussion and giving me the opportunity to meet with you guys. And again, as you said, take two. But no, I am a certified meathead as far as the U.S. meat industry is concerned. I've been involved in it for over 30 years. But all of my work has been involved in in niche, what I would consider niche type areas or categories within the industry. I never really got into selling commodity meat or beef or pork or any of that, but rather worked on what's next. In fact, when I first got into the deal, I spent a fair amount of time in England working with St. Marin's Meats, and St. Marin's was a supplier to Tesco. And it was all myself and Randy Huffman. We were there representing our company, Fairbank Farms, and we were trying to learn about case ready, which was not. There wasn't any case ready in the U.S. at that time. That's early '90s.
Bill, I'm going to stop you because we've actually got Ray looking like he's joining us.
Nice.
So look at this. What a nice surprise. Then we'll let you carry on, but we'll just get Ray into the call. Ray, you're with us.
I made it.
Yeah, please do not swear. Please do not swear. We're mid-recording, Ray. So we're going to carry on because we're on a roll. But you're here. You're looking vaguely stressed, but you're now in the call. Cool. So yeah, Bill, sorry, go on to explain about your case ready meat initiative.
So Randy and I spent time, probably a month or so over there studying it, brought it back, and we worked with a couple of retailers in the northeast part of the U.S. to actually install case ready in those stores. And then after that, I went on to be involved in another startup company, and we were involved in fully cooked meat, which again, at that time, this is late 90s, was not, didn't exist. The category didn't exist in the U.S. And I worked with HEB, that's a great retailer out of Texas, and Molly McAdams, who was the new category manager for fully cooked, the very first one in our country. And we put together I think an incredible business around fully cooked, convenient meat. But it just gives you an idea. Those are the types of things that I've worked on.
Obviously innovating the whole time, which is really interesting. And just explain that a little bit more to me. So you're saying fully cooked meats was a new thing. Now, I'm guessing you could have surely bought pre-made like sandwich ready ham and things before that time. So we're talking we're different to sort of hams and things. So what sort of product is a pre-cooked meat? What were your products?
Yeah. So the initial product, and I actually wasn't involved in this one. This was, but in Texas, the brisket out of cattle is like religion. I mean, they love brisket, and everybody cooks it, and it's awesome, but it takes a long time. So Molly McAdams, who I mentioned earlier, Molly said, well, why don't we try pre-cooking this? And so that now all I have to do is heat it. And which is what she did. And then I got involved, I think it was the second item after that, with burgers. So again, imagine taking explaining to people in the late 90s that you can take this burger out of this bag. It's frozen. You can put it in a microwave, and it's going to taste as good as any burger that comes off your grill. And that was actually the guarantee that we made, that this will be the best tasting burger you've ever had, or your money back. And guys, it worked. We ended up with like 7 SKUs, different flavors, a decadent bacon cheeseburger, those kinds of things. And it worked really well. And like a year later, we had 35 different SKUs of fully cooked meat, all time, from poultry to pork to beef. And it was an incredible experience for me to be involved.
I mean, it's really interesting, very different than anything Ray and I normally talk about, and probably what we're going to talk about later, which is technologies that global level or grand scheme of things are sort of quite low volumes. You're selling to hundreds or maybe thousands of farmers, but you're talking about selling to tens of thousands of consumers with this, or millions of consumers, I guess, and millions of units. So it's quite a different scale of business.
So just to give you an idea, these burgers that I'm talking about, and again, we originally just rolled out, I think we have 3 different sizes, but in 30 days we did over $1 million worth of business. So it was completely new, and again, it's a different type of technology, guys, but the technology that went into building those, so that you didn't have that warmed over flavor. It took a different type of technology to create an incredible eating experience that everybody loved. But that was a lot of fun. It was cool, and that has stayed with me all the way through. But another company that I worked with, another startup, and it was actually a joint venture, 50-50 JV between Cargill, who everybody knows, and a company called Advanced Food Company out of Enid, Oklahoma. And the two of them, neither one of them really worked in retail. So anyway, they decided to focus on this fully cooked category in retail. And myself and 3 other guys headed it up. And we took it, and we had a fall with it. The team was incredible. And we grew that thing from startup to $100 million pretty quickly. Within a few years, we were there. And about in year 7 of that, we had grown that thing to probably $185 million. But the board told us at one meeting, and this was a game-changing deal for me, and how I look at business. But the board told us in one of our quarterly meetings that they were no longer impressed with our sales growth because the profits remained constant. They weren't impressed with our inability to grow the bottom line. That we were great at growing top line, but not so good at bottom line. And if we couldn't do it, that they would find a new management team that could. So after that meeting, I'm sure the 4 of us headed to the nearest pub, to figure out what we were going to do with this news. And I think that the thing that it taught me was, for the next couple of years, we did focus on the bottom line. And while we continued to grow the top line, I think when the board delivered that message to us, we were probably a $185 million business doing $13 million in EBITDA profit. And 2 years later, we were probably a $225 million business doing $30 million bottom line. So more than doubled in 2 years. And what that taught me was the power of focus, but and the power of really understanding that top line gives you bragging rights and makes you feel great, but bottom line pays the bills. And by the way, bottom line is what investors who are looking at your business want to see too. So within a couple of years, we ended up selling that business to an equity group who took it, and man, they exploded on in addition to what we did. But guys, that really led me to exactly what AgWise is all about. And AgWise, we're focused on trying to help small and mid-sized farmers focus on the bottom line instead of the top line, instead of just trying to grow yield, to actually focus on making a profit. And our goal is to deliver, you talked a little bit about platforms, and our first go around, I told you, I really don't, everybody has a platform. And I don't want to be part of that group. I want to be, we have what we consider an operational intelligence hub. And this hub, it keeps bringing in the information from the various tools that we create. But the whole purpose of this thing is to help small, mid-sized farmers focus on profitability, and ultimately to be able to look at the end of the year at their fields, at their acres, and be able to rank those fields and acres by profitability, and then spend that month or two before the next planting season just to figure out, okay, how do I make my least profitable field more profitable, or my least profitable acre, do I need to do something different with it, grow something different in it? What? So, and all of our tools, be it foliar script or the Haney Soil AI or any of them, are all geared to help in that regard, and to again to make these guys really more profitable by using less nutrients, yada yada yada, all those inputs.
I think it's quite interesting when I think we'll dive into the product in a bit more detail, but I think it's really cool hearing your story and kind of how you've, your personal story and journey in terms of business, and how you've kind of, taken things from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 100 kind of thing. And it's something that, like, Kit and I always debate about in terms of startups, and how do you start from nothing, or do you try and sort of come in with a product and partner with people? And what's your experience been in terms of your kind of previous background, and then also the work you're doing with AgWise? How have you kind of got those businesses off the ground?
I think that the hard lesson that I learned, Ray, is that anybody who's thinking of starting a startup probably should go do something else, because it is just it's not easy, it's not fun, and the first hiccup you get, if you're not full all in, you're probably gonna not be successful. But the other thing that I've got, Ray, is that a startup needs to solve a current problem. I mean, it needs to solve an issue right now that people have, not some futuristic deal, not some carbon credit trading, yada yada yada. All of that, all of which is real, and I'm not dismissing that stuff at all. But I'm saying, in order for me anyway, as a startup, to get any traction and be successful, you've got to solve whoever your target customer is. In our case, it's small and mid-sized farmers. You got to solve problems that they have. And again, that's those tools, that analytical tools that we have created. That's the whole intent behind them, is to help solve in the case of foliar script, how much is it costing me in fertilizer and nutrients for this corn or soybean crop or whatever, and hopefully we can really cut that. And typically we're looking at savings of anywhere from $5 to $20 an acre, which is really significant. And if you think about what we just said, all of that rolls towards trying to make that acre more profitable for that farmer. Did I answer your question right?
Yes, yeah, you totally did. It's often a debate that Kit and I have, and I think we're both in agreement. Often you can sort of have these sort of lofty aims with a startup of we're going to completely reinvent an industry and from the ground up. But sometimes I think you kind of miss the
whole thing about you have to be super disruptive and all these things, and it's like actually what you need is a product that people want. So I think you put it exactly how we often get to the point that you just made. I think
it's got to be value add.
Yeah. So the other thing that I've learned is that you all are so further along than we are when it comes to sustainability or your regenerative or the whole concern about the environment. I mean, the U.S. we've been dragged kicking and screaming into it. I mean, the ag community and the politicians and whatnot are just haven't been there the way Europe has. And so again, when we started down this road, when Sarah and I started down this road a few years ago, I mean, we had all these visions of, the U.S. is going to follow Europe and everything, so we're going to be in front of the carbon intensity and yada, yada, yada. And all of that is I still think going to happen. But in the meantime, as I said, we still had to pay bills. And we suddenly realized, that's more futuristic for a lot of our customers. So what do our customers need? And that's where we ended up getting back to, you got to make the soil healthier. How can we, not as a product company, because we're completely agnostic when it comes to product. We're not trying to sell our customers a product. We're trying to give them the data, the information that they need through our analytical tools to be able to say, okay, the crop needs boron. At this stage of its growth, it needs boron, it needs zinc, it needs...
So, Bill, you with the foliar script, what crops are you working on that product with? It being that sort of offering specifically, I'm guessing probably corn and soybeans. But I guess us sat here in the UK, the one that we'd all be interested in would be wheat. Have you done any work in any? What areas have you been in?
Yeah, we should have a foliar script for wheat by the end of the summer. Again, we started with corn and soybean, as you said, and we're also working on sorghum. Will be added to the mix also at the end of this season. And then we're working on some specialty crops, different tomatoes and different vegetables like that as well.
Right, interesting. And again, as we've said, we've already had this conversation before. Last time you also mentioned you've got a sort of hedging platform for cattle. Could you, in a very different industry, could you explain that a little bit? A very different product rather than but equally, a technical solution, a software solution.
Yeah. So a customer of ours a year ago came to us. He got introduced through a colleague of mine, and Jamie Kohake. He is a commodity trader in the U.S., pretty well known, and he wanted us to build a commodity trading platform for him. Again, it was kind of a one-off from what we were doing, but ultimately led to us working on one of those commodities was cattle. And we ended up working on a pretty simple cattle hedging platform that has turned out to be successful. So we've taken that into a couple different companies, but again, our focus is small, mid-size, in this case, cattlemen, who are usually scared to death of hedging, and don't hedge. And in this market, at least that we're in, you can lose everything pretty quickly. So anyway, we created that. Raja and the team created this cattle hedging platform that and this tool that really seems to be working. Again, when I say it's not our focus is typically on the land and crops. But again, as an old meathead, I love being somewhat involved still in the cattle business, and come to find out, guys, most of the ranchers, the cow calf operator, whatever, and all the feeders are typically growing their own feed. So they're growing their own corn or soybean or sorghum or whatever it may be, and therefore they're a natural customer for us. So as we're working with some of these other companies that are doing the livestock side of what we do from an analytical perspective, they're very much involved in that. We've got a great companion, and now another revenue stream for them to add to their mix. So it has worked out really well, being involved in this in the cattle hedging platform.
Are you sort of taking very much a sort of a data-driven approach when it comes to hedging? I can imagine the more data you can get your hands on in terms of what's going on, obviously there's market data, but there's also sort of individual data. Do you kind of tailor make those hedging solutions for your customers?
So it's not customized as much, Ray. I mean, it's, you've got your basics that everybody's going to need to be involved in as far as break evens and that kind of stuff. And that's, but it is personalized. I mean, it's, you're actually dealing with, with your input costs, your feed, your daily rate of gain, all of that goes into this hedging tool, and then allows you to make those decisions as you run through the season.
So just picking up on something you were saying slightly before, and again something we had the conversation last time, we talked about the fact that largely our industry has been broken up, and we've got arable farms and we've got livestock farms and a lesser amount of mixed farms. And here in the UK, we've had this drive through now government really into regenerative ag, and obviously if we step back 5 years, regen ag was still a very niche and small sort of proportion of our industry. Now 5 years later, it's kind of government imposed mainstream. It's kind of what the policies made us do, and as part of that, there is probably, and I'm not going to over exaggerate this, it's not as though every farm suddenly turned into a mixed farm, but there certainly will be farms that are now moving back towards a more mixed enterprise. Obviously you're over there in the US. What have you seen the sort of uptake in sort of regen conversation similar to us in the last sort of 5 years, and have you seen farm businesses starting to adapt and change into a more regenerative way, or a bit like you were saying about the sustainability thing, you're still a bit far behind us? And I guess at this point we should like tip the hat to the fact that there's people like obviously Gabe Brown and other sort of real regen leaders that came from the US, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's caught on quite as much as it sort of seems to have caught on here, really.
Yeah. So I think that you nailed it as far as why we lag behind, and I kind of mentioned it before, and that is that from a government standpoint, our government doesn't like to to be involved in and imposing. This is exactly the way you guys are going to go. I think that there's some concern right now with Trump and Kennedy and Rollins and whatnot that we're maybe headed that way, and obviously the industry is pushing back a little bit on that. But I will say in my short time in this industry, in this piece of the ag industry, we've made some. I've seen some real significant movement towards regenerative. When I first started and went to a soil regen conference, there would be maybe 20 or 25 farmers. And now you're talking about several hundred farmers being involved in those. I like the way it's progressing in the U.S., in that it's not being driven by the government. It's really being driven by the market. And by that, I mean, your small, mid-sized farmers are looking for ways to survive. They're looking for ways to be more profitable. And they're willing to try regenerative. And again, if it works, yep, hallelujah, I'm in. If it doesn't work, well, then I mean they'll be out and they'll be out of ag altogether. So it's definitely progressing when you go from 20 to several hundred farmers meeting at these conferences and looking for ways again to make that soil healthier, to make the crop healthier, to make the animal who eats that crop healthier, all tying all that together. I can see that happening. And now you sprinkle in RFK Jr. And his desire to make regenerative farming a big deal and to make these products more nutritious. And we may have the makings of a real market here, within the next few years.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to turn this really political, but I guess RFK Jr. The bits that we see of him that are portrayed in our media is that I guess like the heart is very much in the right place. This like make America healthy thing, I think making a healthy population, no one can argue with that, and a lot of what he says about the stuff that a lot of American foods pumped with this, that, and the other. Again, that's the sort of narrative that we as Europeans probably all believe anyway. So we're probably all on board with that. But then you hear the sort of more sort of science skeptic or sort of what's the word? Sort of vaccine skepticism and stuff like that. And so I guess my question is something along the lines of how willing are people to follow him? Do they think it's all great, or is it a bit like, because he's got these sort of crazy ideas, is he being taken seriously, or what does the farming community think of it, sort of thing?
Farming community, so farmers, but also obviously big ag, big pharma, big food. I mean, they really don't like any real change because the system is pretty much set up the way they want it set up, or they've adjusted to that. But I will say that I do think that there's more and more people gravitating towards what Kennedy is saying than maybe big food, big pharma, big ag would like. There's a lot of people starting to. It's definitely catchy. And again, I think that the vaccine skeptics. I'm not a real political guy, but I do like to read up on that stuff, and I don't think he is as skeptic on or anti-vax as people have made him out to be. So I've become somewhat of a fan of his. It's really quiet here, guys. I mean, since the inauguration and whatnot, obviously Trump isn't quiet about anything. You've got complete transparency on what's going on in his world. But I think Kennedy and company have been really quiet. But those who I know who are working on committees and whatnot are telling me that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And again, I'm encouraged by that. Obviously, that's my business, is to be involved in regenerative and to be involved in healthier soil, healthier crops, healthier animals. So I really hope that it works here in the States.
Yeah, that's really really interesting. Okay, so let's wrap shortly, but we'll finish on AgWise, Bill. I mean, from what we've heard, from what you're saying about AgWise, is you say you're trying to solve farmers' problems. You don't want to be called a platform. I guess to me, it almost comes across like you're almost like a design house for solutions. Like if you've got an ag problem that has a sort of software technical solution, that do you guys be interested in working with it? Are you open to international collaboration and that sort of thing?
Oh, very much so. Definitely open to international. We're working with a businessman in the Philippines right now, who owns several retail grocery stores, really fancy retail grocery stores. So again, trying to track various products for him, and to be able to prove that they were regeneratively made, and all of that. Provide the data basically that makes those verifications real. But again, I think that the idea of having that operational intelligence hub versus a platform to me just houses everything. I mean, everything sits in it, and it's a database. And certainly we are building a major database for farm, but I think it's much more important to be able to take action with that information. And that's why we refer to it as an operational intelligence hub, that we gather information from the various tools that we're using, and then again be able to make those decisions. For example, if a farmer gives us 3 pieces of information in January, if he tells us what his zip code is, what his seed number is, what seed is he using for his corn, for example, and what day are you going to plant it, we can basically lay out for him his entire year, his entire production year, and all the milestones associated with it. When you're going to when your corn is going to emerge from the ground, BE1, so on and so forth, throughout that whole stage. And at the same time, think about it, if you're also pulling in information about the market, about the corn market, about whatever, so that you've got, as a businessman, that farmer now has access to, here's exactly what's going on. And I know we can predict what nutrients he's going to need in his soil based on the history of that soil. So yada, yada, yada. That's what we refer to as our platform. But again, we refer to it as a intelligence hub that is really working with real data, not just housing it, but and more importantly, giving it to farmers in a way that they can actually make decisions that, getting back to what I said with my first deal. So it's about profit per acre. It's about profit per field. And every year you get better and better and better at it, and you're making more money. And now you've got a real business that you can either sell or hopefully turn over to the next generation, so that they can actually make a real living doing that, because you've made it a real profitable small business, maybe, but a growing, successful business. That's what AgWise is truly about.
Yeah, great, Bill. There's a lot there to unpack. I mean, firstly, brilliant to know that you're sort of open for those international collaborations, and maybe some of our listeners here in the UK might want to look you up and find out how they can contact you. And the other thing is, really you're leaning into a phrase that me and Ray use a lot, which is like turning data into insight, and that's really important. So, as I say, there's a lot there to unpack in that last answer of yours. Do you want to sort of give us your top line summary and sort of the aims or objectives of AgWise?
Guys, in summary, I would say that AgWise.io is an operational intelligence hub developed to provide the information that farmers need to make profitable decisions. We design analytical tools to help plan production, to analyze production results, to improve soil and crop health, reduce fertilizer inputs or costs, reduce water usage, to analyze finance and tax implications associated with different opportunities in the business, and more. Our mission is to provide the data farmers need to operate a sophisticated small or mid-sized business in a complex marketplace. And we'll consider AgWise.io successful when our customers can rank their fields and acres in terms of profitability and cash flow, can continuously improve the profitability and cash flow of their operation, can differentiate their product to garner a premium price in the marketplace, and can provide professionals like bankers, accountants, lawyers with refined documents that illustrate the business's plan for success.
That's great. Thanks, Bill. We're going to wrap there because we know that you've got to run to another meeting. But just thanks a lot for coming on and sharing with our audience about what agwise.io can offer and what you guys do. It's been really interesting.
Guys, thank you for giving me a chance to introduce AgWise to your audience.
Oh, and I guess we need to always say, as ever, if you're liking the podcast, tell a friend. And actually, remember, if you're on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, remember to give us a rating. That really helps as well to share it to other people's feeds. So, cheers.
Thanks very much. Bye.
You have been listening to Raymond King and Kit Franklin. Brash Ag. Thank you, and tune in next time.